Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Sherry Stirling Fernandez. Sherry Stirling Fernandez is the author of the new book, Life Mastery: Personal Progression Towards an Infinite Potential. You can find out more about Sherry Stirling Fernandez and her wonderful work at lifemasteryinfo.com. Welcome, Sherry Stirling Fernandez.
Thank you, Catherine.
So, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, what does it mean to master our life?
It's probably easiest to explain by the opposite. It's more familiar to everybody, but that feeling of out of control often leads to like anxiety and depression. I don't feel like I've got control over my health. I don't feel like I have control over my finances. My life feels like it's spinning out, or I'm stuck. That's not life mastery. And life mastery is the opposite, when we have control of each of the important areas of our life. I list 8 areas of life. When we feel like we're in charge and we're moving forward, not that everything's perfect, but we have it in hand. And that is life mastery. Rather than letting life happen to you, making sure that you're living purposefully.
Now, you say in your book that the formula for life mastery is contentment plus progress equals happiness. What, in your view, let's break this down for our audience. First of all, what is contentment?
The contentment is to know that you're okay where you are, not that you want to stay there, but that you're fine now. It's important to know that you're worthy of moving forward, that you're capable of moving forward, and that requires some contentment about who you are. A lot of people get stuck on that one, though. They're busy. I see a lot of social media memes about, I'm just going to light myself the way I am. That's fine, but you also need to be a person that's moving forward. But it is important to be content for personal progression. And then, of course, progression is, you have contentment to progression, and then that's happiness, because we're not going to be happy staying there. That's stuck again. That's not moving forward, is not happiness. So contentment, I'm okay with who I am, but I want to be better. I'm okay with my finances right now, but I want them to be better. I'm okay with my health. I like myself fine, but I can do better. And that's the road to happiness.
That's very interesting that you say this, Sherry Stirling Fernandez. In my work as a medical intuitive healer, I feel everybody needs healing on 2 major subjects. Number 1, which is I'm good enough. And I feel like that's such an important place to start for so many of us, because you have to realize that you're meant to be you here in this lifetime. You're not meant to be George Clooney. You're not meant to be anybody else. You're meant to be you. You're here to offer your specific vibration. I don't know why I said George Clooney. Somebody that we all maybe know. And then the other thing that I feel that we all need healing on is I deserve to have a good life. Because if you don't feel that you deserve, you're going to do what I refer to as acceptance of the negative, which is just accepting that maybe you feel like life sucks and that's the way it is and nothing will ever get better. And that hinders your progress. So next question in your formula, what is progress? What does it actually mean to make progress?
Progress is just forward movement in those areas, just little tiny. Humans don't grow, just like we don't grow when we're children very fast. It's a slow process. All human growth is like that. When somebody grows in great big leaps and bounds, I mean, some people do a little faster than others, of course. And obviously when they're coaching or getting mentoring, they do better, but still real human growth is just little tiny increments at a time. And that's how we grow. But it's that forward movement that makes us happy. Just knowing that I've done something today, I'm a little better this week than last week. Even it's just teeny tiny little bit. And even though maybe I did a little backsliding here, I grew here, at that process, but it's a forward movement that makes us happy. It's not arriving because our potential is infinite, right? We'll never arrive. It's just the little bits of moving forward. And it's surprising how much happiness can come from just the smallest progress.
Yes, I agree. Forward movement, and not one of the things that I do in my work as a medical intuitive healer is I look at how much of your energy is in the present moment. If you're stuck in the past, you're stuck in depression. If you're stuck in the future, you're stuck in anxiety, worrying about everything that maybe could go wrong. But when you're in the present moment, focusing on moving forward, you bring all of you and all of your energy into that forward moment and into the enjoyment of the present moment. And then your last step in your formula, contentment plus progress equals happiness. What, in your view, is happiness?
That's a pretty big question. So, it's something that's been debated and people talk about forever. What is it that humans really want in life? And we really just want to be happy. I don't know if I have a good explanation of what that is, but we know it when we feel it, right? And it's a combination of joy and contentment. And obviously you only experience it in the present moment. Like you said, you don't experience it in the future or in the past. At that feeling of well-being, it's the thing that you want for your children, right? We know that must be the most important thing in the world, because everyone who has children says, I just want them to be happy. That's what we want for our children, because that's what we intuitively know is the most valuable thing that we can possess. But we're not happy if we're not moving forward. You talk about anxiety about the future gets you stuck. Worrying about the past gets you stuck. Moving forward a lot of people just need to move forward, and they can break those cycles of anxiety and depression just by doing something, improving a little bit. And the anxiety, do that consistently over time, the anxiety, the depression can fade away. Assuming it's not, extreme clinical kinds of depression or anxiety.
Great observation. Now, here at the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, we've interviewed a number of really fascinating people. And one of our guests defined happiness as a combination of gratitude and optimism. So I understand gratitude, I'm grateful to be alive, I'm grateful I'm healthy, I'm grateful my family's healthy, but also optimism. And you have optimism when you have things to look forward to, or you feel like your life is getting better. So this forward momentum that Sherry Stirling Fernandez is talking about helps to build optimism. Now, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, in your book, you talk about the 8 areas of life mastery. What are the 8 areas of life mastery?
Well, there's the physical, of course, where this body of ours is the instrument through which we work and love and think. And so taking good care of ourselves physically, of course, is important. And on that one, I noticed that that's a good place for people to start. They need to get a control over their food, their fitness, their health before they feel really like moving on. For a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people, that's where they feel out of control a lot. I'm eating the wrong things. I don't feel good. I'm not getting enough sleep. Health, fitness, physical. And then the spiritual, relationships, of course, and education. I have to read them too, so I don't forget one. Education, money, vocation, which is defined as what we do in our productive hours. So for me, it's doing interviews with you. For somebody who's retired, which I'm supposed to be, it's maybe volunteer work or whatever they do, a mother, somebody that's home full-time, whatever it is you do, that's your productive hours, is your vocation, lifestyle, and then character.
Right, lifestyle and character. All right, so many of the areas are pretty much self-explanatory, but can you explain for us what you mean by character? What is the life area of character?
I'm very pleased with that one. I did 7 for a long time, for years and years. I taught 7, and I always felt like there was something that, where do you put the thing about, I want to clean up my language, or I want to make sure that I'm really careful about being honest, making sure that everything is as I say it is, or standing up for what's right, or any of those kind of character-based things. What other category do they go in? And yet those things keep us from, when we compromising, right? If I'm really working on my honesty, I'm not going to, well, I'm working on this dream for my business to be successful, I'm going to less likely to compromise somewhere because I'm also working on my characters. How do you do that? So that was the last one I added. I just added that about the same time I started the book. I added that to my workbook, and my program is building character, because if you do that, you're not going to sell out somewhere else. You're going to be honest in your relationships, and it's going to keep everything in balance. And so I'm very pleased that I added that. I don't know why it took me so long, but I'm very pleased about the character segment of it. And maybe, who knows, maybe it's the most important. I don't know. I think they're all equally important, but.
So Sherry Stirling Fernandez, I'm going to maybe interpret for our audience. So, and you can tell me if I've got this right. So what I'm hearing is character are the inner values by which we live. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's about who we are, a lot about who we are. So most of our personal development is going to be either about what we do or who we're becoming. And actually we become something by what we're doing also. But as far as bringing it down to day by day, who am I becoming and what am I doing? I'm going to work out, that's something I'm doing. I want to be a good listener, and that's something I'm becoming. And so, and that I have tools for both in the book, but it takes, sometimes you can't put down on paper and say, yes, I did, or no, I didn't, some things. And character's mostly going to be those things. Who am I becoming as a person, and being aware of who we're becoming as opposed to what we're doing. Both are important. Both are for progress, but they are two different. Sometimes they cross over, they blend together a little bit.
Right. So character you define as who am I and who am I becoming?
Who am I and who am I becoming?
So,
What is my integrity like?
what is my integrity like? So very interesting question. And in my work as a medical intuitive healer, I help people understand who they are through a lot of different methods, not just what's going on with the 5 levels of healing, your physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual, but actually who are you? And there's a lot of ways to help people understand who are you. So Sherry Stirling Fernandez, how do you empower people to understand who they are now?
One of the things that we do, there's a number of different things I do, but the first thing that came to mind is one of the things that we do about halfway working with somebody is we talk about a mission statement and about the gifts that you bring to the world. And I think that's one way people find out who they are. I like to do it after they've been working for a while, because as things start to as they start to make some progress forward, they start reaching for bigger things. And then they need to have a little bit of work first before they're ready to do the mission statement usually. Some people come in, they say, I just want to do a mission statement. That's somebody that's already pretty accomplished already. But most people, I wait for a few weeks into the program, maybe a month or two, and then we do a mission statement. So that's one way. We look at all the gifts that they have, and this is what I want to do with them to make the world a better place. Simple one-line statement. For my mission statement is that I have, God's given me knowledge, wisdom, and personal power. And I use these gifts to inspire others to live with purpose, passion, and faith. To understand who you are and how you're going to give it back to the world. So that's one way. I think a lot of it just unfolds as people move forward. They start to see who they are as they move forward in life and start making improvements in their life.
Fascinating. And ironically, one of the ways that I empower people to understand who they are is through a very fascinating system of body typing. And this is a system that was developed by Dr. Carolyn Mine in the book, Different Bodies, Different Diets. And everybody has dominant drives. So for example, I'm physical and mental. So I'm either moving around, learning something, teaching something, writing another book, or I'm passed out. And the 4 dominant drives that you have inside of you are physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. And when you understand what your dominant drives are, everything you do, how you exercise, what you do for a living needs to be satisfying your dominant drives for you to be happy, healthy, and to be living your purpose. And then when you have integrated those dominant drives, then you can integrate the other aspects of yourself. But it's really understanding at a very deep level what you're about, what makes your body tick and what makes your soul tick at the deepest levels. Now, we'll be right back after the following messages from our sponsors. So, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, what are the principles behind your view of life mastery?
Well, the basic premise, of course, as we've talked about a little bit, is about happiness comes from moving forward. Then you have to develop a system for moving forward. One of the, I'm a nuts and bolts person, you know, we're going to not talk too much. We're going to get to work. So I'm not a counselor. And I tell them right up. Once I've heard the story, we don't loop back to it. We just move forward from right here and we're moving forward. So I teach some tools to do that. One of the main principles, underlying principles is our habits. It's what we do every day that makes a difference. So it's exercising every day that's going to make a difference. It's going to take our vitamins every day that's going to make a difference. Whatever it is that we need to, those habits build up, and they build one on one. They build up on each. They compound. That's what I'm trying to say. They compound. They build on one another. So I teach a system called tracking, where we track daily habits. And people, they pick their own habits. Obviously, I don't pick them for them, but a lot of people will start with like prayer or meditation, and they'll add reading spiritual texts, and they'll have working out, exercising. We like to not use the word exercising because everybody hates that one. Training their body. They might then want to add some reading in their field. So they just add these daily habits, but you do these habits day after day, week after week, month after month. You look back and you come a long ways, and they're just a little thing every day. Doing it consistently makes a big difference. I'm sure you teach something similar.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with you, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, that it's what you do every day that counts.
Yes.
So if you only move your body once a week, you're not going to really make any change.
Right. Yeah, you start all over every week.
You start all over every week, right? Or if
A
you
lot of people live like that, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating for them. And it's usually because they don't have a system, though, Catherine. If you have a system, then you don't do that, right? So we have this tracking sheet. If I get them in the habit of looking at their tracking sheet every day, then everything's listed there. It's not that people are weak, that they lose their goals. They set these New Year's resolutions or these goals, and they lose them. They forget about them, kind of. They miss a few days, and then a few more days, and then pretty soon they forgot they were even going to get in shape. If you have the habit of using a tracking sheet every day, and you have the things you want to do every day listed, and you mark them off every day, you have that one habit, that's going to keep all the other habits. So, oh, I haven't read yet today. I forgot about my reading. Let me check that off. Oh, I was going to drink 70 ounces of water today. I don't have a glass of water. I got to check that off, right? You're going to do that. You're more likely to do those things because you have a system that helps you remember, keep you on track. It's your own accountability, because you can't have a coach for forever. I'd happy to take somebody's money month after month for forever, but that's not my job, right? My job is to get people independent of me. So that tracking sheet makes a big difference. And then I teach written affirmations. That's the other side of that. Daily written is so much more powerful than just verbal. Now the verbal is not great too, and both would be preferable, but daily written affirmations are the bomb for changing, again, who you are. That's the two parts. What do I do? Tracking sheet. What am I becoming is the daily affirmations.
Wonderful. Now, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, what in your view is the problem with SMART goals? So people talk about SMART goals: specific, measurable, actionable. What's the R?
Relevant and time sensitive. The problem with that is they're not inspiring enough. The very first thing I do when people come in is I have them do the big dreams list. These are just things I want to do in life. I want to, hike this mountain, or I want to see the Colosseum in Rome, and we break it down. I want to just
right.
This is an excuse. You just dream really big. I want to get them thinking about big goals. So really, what do you really want for your body? Do you want to just work out every day for 6 weeks? No, you've got this dream of what you want to look like. You have this big dream of what your finances want to be like. So if you can hold that big dream, but they're not definable, they're not smart, measurable, they're attainable in my opinion. they're relevant and they aren't, but they're not time. You can't measure the SMART goal. They've done studies on this, and people who do SMART goals are actually less satisfied with life than people who do great big hairy audacious dream goals is what it is. I think BHAGs by Jim Collins. Those people are happier because you're looking for something more inspiring than just putting $20,000 in the bank. Oh, I want to be independently wealthy. It's a lot more inspiring, right? So that's the problem. It's not a problem with SMART goals. They just need to be bigger. Then you can use your SMART goal method for the action steps to get you there. Okay, so to get there, I am going to have to do some certain things. Those do need to be measurable, obtainable, relevant, time sensitive. And I forgot the first one. The action steps do, but the goal themselves, dream really big. We're capable of so much. Our potential really is infinite. It really is infinite. And so if you set a SMART goal, you're going to limit your achievements.
Right. And what I like about your view about SMART goals is that when we're working with only SMART goals, we're working at literally the ego level. And the way that I view a person as a medical intuitive healer, not that I'm right, but this is my view, is that you have a physical body, you have an energy system, you have emotions, you have a mind, and you have a soul. And when we start with our dreams, we start with what really is your soul longing. And in my view, you are a soul having a human experience. And when you really listen at the soul level to what your soul longing is, then everything else can get behind that. And if you're not listening at the soul level, then you're going to keep butting your head against things and getting into all kinds of obstacles. So I really like what you're doing there. But once you understand what your soul longing is, then you can logically think through, okay, how can I go about doing that? What steps can I take today to move forward? So Sherry Stirling Fernandez, as you and everybody listening to the Natural Healing Show already knows, we've been living through one of the most stressful periods in most of our lifetimes, this coronavirus pandemic. In your view, what happens when people get overwhelmed by stress? What does that do to our ability to move forward on our goals?
I'd almost say it's maybe the other way around. It's when we're not moving forward that's harder to deal with stress. There's always obstacles to our personal progression, right? You know, like somebody said, if you find a road that doesn't have any obstacles, it doesn't go anywhere. So we're working on ourselves, we're moving along, and then we have a pandemic. Well, so what can we do? Well, we may have to make some adjustments, some things I was going to do, I can't do now, or I can do them like this. We have to keep moving. If you let it stop you, if you let it become an obstacle, it will be frustrating. But we don't have to do that. A pandemic you're still having your show. I'm sure you had it the whole time. You did a lot of them. I'm sure you wrote some books. So many people have actually used it as an opportunity to grow. And we can look at it one of two ways, right? Oh my goodness, I can't do the things the way I used to do them. I don't know what my work's gonna look like. I can't go do these things. Or you can say, okay, that's interesting. Okay, how can I work around this thing? What can I do? And often that it's a breeding ground for creativity. I've watched, we're very involved with a lot of entrepreneurs in entrepreneurship. And it's interesting to me to see that how some businesses like close their doors or like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. We can't do things the way we've always done them. But I've seen a lot of businesses and a lot of business people get a little bit creative and they have the best year ever. And that's kind of a metaphor for how it always is. You have this obstacle, you can figure out how to get around it and do even better, or you can let it stop you, wring your hands, and then what follows? Anxiety, depression, feeling of pressure and stress. If you keep moving forward. And the bottom line is the only thing you can really do to make a difference about the pandemic or the politics or whatever is to work on us. All we can do really is improve us. And that makes the world a better place. And then it ripples outwards from there. And so if you keep focused on your stuff, that's how you can improve a world with a pandemic, a world with strange political stuff going on. You know, there's always weird things. I think I'm a little older than you are. I remember the 60s
I'm
and all the stuff going on then.
2 years old.
Okay, so you're just a little bit younger than me, but I remember those times that was stressful. We all knew people who died at Vietnam, for example. You know, there was a lot of weird things. We had pandemics then too. We had some flu or another, I can't remember, Asian flu or something. So there's always gonna be hard times. You just have to become a person that looks around the obstacle, rather works around it, looks around it, then works around it, rather than the person who lets it stop you from making your dreams come true.
I just really love that observation that all roads that go anywhere have obstacles. That's so true. I have to tell this funny story because it's relevant to what you just said. One time years ago, I was driving from Detroit to a friend in Canada. And you know, back in the day, you could drive over the bridge in Windsor, Ontario, and go along. Well, this was the summer, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and little did I know that in Canada, there's 2 seasons, winter and reconstruction. So I'm driving along, and I would literally, in a rental car that I got at the Detroit airport, and I would come in the middle of nowhere to roadblocks with absolutely no directions. Like, you know, well, if you're going this way, here's another way to go. So the road would be literally blocked off. And I'm like, oh my God, now what do I do? I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's no signage, but I did get to where I was going because I was very clear. I've got to be to this place. And somehow I figured my way around it. And I do think that you are correct that we are all going to be experiencing obstacles in our life, whether it be a health issue or a change in our finances or the change in the way our children are educated. And those roadblocks are actually to be anticipated, even if we don't know what that specific roadblock is going to be. But as you said, if we get in touch with what our dreams are, then our dreams can lead us to where we need to go, even if you get to the obstacle and it's like, and now what?
Right. Yeah, that's so true. Anticipating the obstacle is like everything. We know that things are going to come up, and what am I committed to? And then not only are they anticipated, but often there's a great book by Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way. Often the obstacle really is the way. The obstacle was the one that helped me get a little more creative, helped me do a little bit better, helped me rethink my position and decide, was I really even on the right track? Those obstacles, not always, sometimes they can slow us down, and they probably always slow us down, but sometimes the rerouting was exactly what we needed, or the recommitting to the goal was exactly what we needed, recommitting to the dream. So those obstacles are really a blessing. I heard this lady speaking once, I'm not there, but she talked about somebody that she knew. She said that this person would pray for adversity because they want to be a better person. I'm like, okay, I've not arrived to that. I don't think we need to, enough it finds us. We don't need to pray for it, but those adversity, we call it, or obstacles, those are our blessings in disguise almost always.
I am also a great fan of that book, The Obstacle is the Way. And what I observe as a medical intuitive healer with 28 years of experience, frequently, some of my healthiest clients now were very sick earlier on. And it was the obstacle of getting sick and having to develop the habits to overcome their illness that made them as healthy as they are today. Yeah. And so again, these obstacles that they experienced, whether it was cancer or heart disease or severe digestive disorders or severe depression or severe anxiety or fatigue, once they really embraced, okay, I've got this health issue and nobody's going to solve it for me. Mm-hmm. Go around seeing all the doctors, what drug can I take, whatever. And then at a certain point, their light bulb goes off inside their mind. And this is what we talk about here at the Natural Healing Show. What can I do? How can I live my life so that I can be a healthier person? And in embracing these obstacles, people become incredibly healthy. We'll be right back after the following messages from our sponsors. Now, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, what can we do when we lose our motivation? Because we've all had those experiences. It's like, I just not.
I'm not feeling it today. Yeah, I know. So that's a really good question. Habits, it's really all about daily habits, right? We talk about what we do every day. So when we first start a new thing, I'm going to start exercising is always working out is always a really good place to start. So working out, I'm going to work out every day. And when we get our new outfit, and we get our new shoes, and we get a new gym membership, and we go through what we call a honeymoon phase, which can last days or weeks. And then at some point we go through another phase, which is what I call the doldrum phase. It's the phase where it just takes all of our willpower just to get out the door. And willpower, they tell us is willpower, we only have so much every day. It can grow with practice, but it was just taking almost all of it to get out the door. If we stick with it and we don't quit, that's when people quit. If we don't quit, we hang in there, that phase will pass and we'll become eventually who we are. I'm a person who gets up, even some days I'm not liking it, I'm putting on my shoes and walking out the door. Even while I'm thinking I might stay in bed, I'm still going without even really realizing it's because it's who I am. It becomes just a part of us. Now we no longer need to use up all that valuable willpower. We can use it for the next habit. It still takes a little. Sometimes they're like, maybe my throat's sore. Maybe I should stay home. No, your throat's not sore. Get out and go do your workout. But then now we can use that same amount of willpower for the next habit. Okay, now let's see, what else can I do? I'm going to, every day I'm going to read for 20 minutes in my field, to increase my expertise. Now I'm going to add another thing. But every habit is going to go through those three phases. The honeymoon phase, the doldrum phase, and then it becomes who we are. If you don't stay on it during the doldrum phase, it takes longer to get through it. So the more you stay on your program, the shorter that doldrum phase will be. But it's just a part of making habits, part of being human. That's that tracking sheet, and an accountability partner or coach can help you get through those doldrum phases.
Great observation. And I'd like to add to that wonderful insights. What I do is I focus on how I want to feel. So for example, I'll give two good examples. I usually exercise every day, whether I teach yoga 8 times a week, or I lift weights, or I walk my dog. Those are my main forms of movement. But part of what keeps me exercising every single day is how I want to feel, because I know I'm going to feel better when I work out. Even there are days when I'm like, oh man, I'm so exhausted, but then I'll just kind of make a deal with myself. Well, I'm going to walk on the treadmill for at least 20 minutes. And if I start to feel better, I'll do more. And if I don't feel better, I'll just say, okay, that's it for me. That's enough. That's good. But it's focusing on how I want to feel. Another really relevant example, I'm sure we've all had this. I was driving in the car on way back on the family union with my boyfriend, and we're trying to find road food at 9:00 at night. And anyway, we stopped by Dairy Queen, a place I don't go very often. And he's like, oh, haven't you ever had a Dairy Queen whatever? And I was like, actually, no, I've never had it. And so anyway, we ended up having this ice cream thing from Dairy Queen, and it reminded me, as I started to eat it, I didn't feel very good.
No, I bet you didn't. There's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that. And it was so funny because I'm sitting there and I didn't finish the whole thing. I put it down. It was a lot of ice cream. And it was something with peanuts and chocolate and ice cream. And it just reminded me, I was like, I can't wait to go back to eating healthy. because I know how I want to feel, right?
Yes, there's a quote I like, I think it was by Viktor Frankl, and he said, between stimulus and response, there's a space, and that space is our power to choose. And what we try to do, and I try to get my clients to do, is we have that, we're not like animals or just move on instinct. We have a little bit of space there. And what we have to do is remember how we'll feel later. At the end of the day, if I don't work out, will I feel better? No, I will not. I will feel disappointed in myself. So when my clients are developing these habits, I'll ask them, I have a bad week. I just had this one gal, she had sick kids, not six. I had six, she had sick. She had sick kids and this and that. And so she just really fell off her program. I said, how does that feel? Everybody does that. And I always ask that question, how does it feel? How do you feel when you stay on your program? These are the daily habits they're trying to create. I feel so, I'm so happy. So compare those two things. So now when you have that little space between stimulus, there's some ice cream, and the response, shall I eat it or not? We stop and we think, I don't feel good about myself if I miss my workout. I don't feel good. My body stinks, feels horrible. If my insides don't feel good if I eat the ice cream. And I don't like myself very well because I know I shouldn't have done it right. So if we can remember how we feel when we do both ways, that helps us make a better decision. But it takes practice. It doesn't come easily. And sometimes those things call so loudly. We can hardly not do it.
Yes. Now, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, what happens when people have not overcome their inner resistance to achieving their goals?
You have to chip away at it, and there's not going to be happy. And here's one of the things when I work with clients and they start to realize these things, I say, now you can never not know that, right? Now that you know this, you're going to feel even worse if you don't do the things that you've committed to do. Now that you know the difference, it's just that inner resistance. You should chip away at it. Some people have more than others. Some people just do have a lot of inner resistance, but you just work on the habits, stay committed to habits, start small, and just chip away at it until it's, we don't, on my daily tracking sheet, I have a dozen things, but I've been doing it for 40 years. I have a new client, I get 1, 2, 3 items on their tracking sheet. Maybe we'll move to 4 or 5 in the whole entire time that they work with us. These things, we have to be patient with ourselves. As long as we're making little tiny steps forward, we're doing okay. And the best way to check on that is to look back over a few weeks, not a few days, but a few weeks or months and say, okay, where was I a few months ago? Especially if they're working with me, they've come a long ways quickly, but they still forget. Where was I this time 2 months ago, last year, 5 years ago? Okay, I'm doing okay. And then keep moving forward.
Great observation. In my work as a medical intuitive healer, probably one of the most important healings that I ever do with anybody is to be willing. So, and there's in some of my books, I talk about how there's 25 different payoffs for staying sick, fat, and right? So there's payoffs, right?
Yeah, there are payoffs.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like
I went for like 20 years without a cold or the flu, and this is how I did it. Is I forgot about it after a while, so after about 20 years, but I forgot you could get sick. But I remember going through that same process. I used the same word you just used, payoffs. What are the payoffs for being sick? And then I went through, was it worth it? Was never worth it, because yeah, you get the day off, but then you have twice as much work the next day, right? So there are payoffs for being sick, but they're not worth it to me. And once I made that decision, I looked at it really clearly and said, yeah, it's not worth it. I just wasn't sick. I just didn't get sick anymore because, I don't know, my brain was no longer in charge, I guess, of my colds and flu. And then I got the flu and I was like, what is this? Because I forgot. I forgot I didn't do that.
Now, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, you say that systems are more important than goals. Why is that? Because,
and I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but you can set this great goal, but if you don't have a system, you'll forget about it eventually. You'll miss here, and then pretty soon you'll miss there, and then pretty soon the weeks go by and you think, oh, wait, I was going to do this thing, right? So it's really about the systems. I know a client has really got it when they go right to the systems. Many goals you don't even have to write down. You just plug them into your systems. I use this example because I thought it was so good. I should tell her I use it someday, but I know she wouldn't mind. But she had 2 children, about 18 and 20-ish, something like that. And she had for a long time wanted to write a journal for them every day, like put something in their journal every day and then give it to them at the end of the year. So for one whole year, she just wanted to write a little something to them every day, which I thought was really sweet. I would never have the patience with that. Plus I have 6 kids, so I'm not doing that. But I thought it was really sweet. But so she just came in. I didn't really know she was going to do this. She just told me about it. And she said, so I just put on my tracking sheet. She never wrote the goal. She didn't need to. And then I knew that she had it. She put on her tracking sheet. I write in the journals every day, however she worded it. And she checked it off and it was happening. So your system is what'll drive you towards the finish line. Setting the goal is a dream, but your system is going to get you there. If you can't put it on a tracking sheet, you put it in the affirmations, but you've got to have a system. I've got actually 3 systems that and they're easy. They're simple, almost childish simple, but they really work.
And only a mother of 6 children would understand the importance of system.
That's right. You better have good systems. You're going to have that many kids. I did. I had good systems. You have to have good systems or else it's chaos.
Absolutely. So you mentioned you have 3 systems. For our audience, what are your 3 systems?
One is a tracking sheet, and those are free. They're downloadable on my website, which I had done that for long before I ever thought of writing a book. I've given these away, and I've got people I've worked with for years and years who still once in a while say, can I get another one of those tracking sheets from you? They could make their own, and you can make your own. Anybody could do it, but you might as well just use mine because they're already thought through. So tracking sheet, you list the items you're going to do. There's the calendar across the top. It's like checking it off on a calendar, each item, but there's room for each item. And then you've got daily, weekly, monthly on that. So that's one system. That's the first one I teach. The second one is affirmations. Sometimes things don't fit. I want to be a good listener. So I write on my tracking sheet, my affirmations, I'm a good listener. We always write them as if they already are. So I'm a good listener. I speak well of others. You said this one earlier, and I love this, because that's what my very first affirmation is. I am positive and optimistic. I'm strong. I'm cheerful. See, those are the things that you want to be. So that goes there. And then there's one other system that's it's a little bit of a free-for-all kind of system. It's called a 90-day satisfaction checklist. And anything you want to accomplish or you did accomplish in 90 days goes on that list. So even if I didn't write it down anywhere, maybe I did some really difficult hike. I'm going to put that on my satisfaction checklist. So then we have a list of everything we've been accomplishing, because sometimes in the work of progression and setting goals and all of this work, we start thinking, what am I doing? I'm not accomplishing. What have I done? I don't even know what I've done anymore. Then we can look at this list and say, whoa, look at all these things I've done. So I want to read to my children every day for a week. Or a month or a year, whatever. Not a year, just 90 days. Whatever it is you want to put on there. I want to read this. I said, I'm going to read this many books. So I read blank. I'm going to read 10 books. Maybe I know 3 titles. So I list 10 books. I read this one. I read this one. I read this one. I read blank. I read blank. I read blank. And I fill it in as I go. Does that make sense? So that's just sort of a big ongoing list of everything I'm accomplishing that I can check off or add to as I go along for 90 days. It sounds it's pretty free flowing. So it's a nice place to just experiment with and play with and list your goals and the things you want to do and list your dreams. And it's a fun list.
And what I love about, there's so many things that I love about your 3 systems, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, because when we write things down, the left side of your brain remembers.
Mm-hmm.
Either I remember I did that, mm-hmm. or I remember I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. And I feel that when you engage the left side of the brain, it's going to reduce your anxiety. And because it's the left side of the brain that's constantly reminding you, don't forget. You have these important.
Yeah. And it weighs on you. That can be weigh on you. So when you have it written down, whether it's in your tracking sheet, these are the things I want to do every day. I don't have to remember. I just have to check my sheet. Also, another good place for what you're talking about, writing things down. Well, first of all, it's been said we're like 1,000 times more likely to accomplish something. I don't know who measured that. If we write it down, I don't know if that's true, but we're certainly more likely to accomplish it. But the other thing is on writing things down. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. They've got a lot of ideas. They've got all these, and a lot of your listeners are probably relating to this. All these big ideas and things I want to do, and they're over here and they're over here and they're just scattered. But I'm trying to get them to focus on the thing that they're trying to do. And So what I have them do is they keep a little notebook and write down all your big ideas in that notebook, because you're afraid you're going to lose them. You can't do them all right now, but you're afraid you're going to lose this. I have this great idea for an invention. Write it in your notebook. Right now we're working on this, and now you know it's not lost. You can still do it, but right now you don't. Or maybe there's a goal you want to set.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. We've been listening to fabulous ideas about how you can move forward on your life mastery from Sherry Stirling Fernandez, the author of Life Mastery, Personal Progression Toward an Infinite Potential. You can find out more about Sherry Stirling Fernandez and her wonderful work at her website, lifemasteryinfo.com. And remember, when you're moving forward, you're going to continue to heal yourself naturally and feel happy and productive. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.